Hello everyone, it's Clare Paris here. I'm doing this small video with you today with my good friend Janine Alpine to share with you some details, some more information about a metaphysical, esoteric and spiritual group that I am going to be starting this coming February 24. And I would like to share some of the details about that and what it's all about and what I hope will be of benefit to those people who are interested in doing this sort of work. So I've been working in this field for a few years now, probably over 35 years. And during that time, I've noticed more and more that people are drawn so much into the spiritual life and into the spiritual studies. And at the same time, they are going through their own personal and inner development. So at times their emotional life, their mental life, their psychological life, the world at the psychic level erupts into their consciousness, and it can be difficult to navigate one's way through all of this at the same time. What I have found with the mystery schools and the traditions which have been preserved in those traditions is a blueprint, is a foundation and a framework to help the individual travel from the person that they believe themselves to be, a person full of anxiety or fear or lack of confidence, lack of empowerment, from constantly seeking, which is a good thing at the beginning, but if carried on for too many years, we can fall into a rut of constantly being the seeker. But held within the mystery school traditions is a way to assist an individual from that stage of who they believe themselves to be into who they really are. And this, of course, was called gnosis, term that the Greeks brought in, but a term and a state of being which has been preserved through all the mystery traditions of both the East and the West. And this is not so much of a pathway, but a process, a technical process of transmutation, an alchemical process, if you will, of transmuting the base part of who we are, the lead, into who we really are, the gold of the soul light, and the realization within our particular human incarnation of the spark of the divine that we really are. Now, of course, this doesn't happen overnight. And there are steps along the way, which are also documented freely within these traditions. But what I have found is it can be really helpful for people to have a guide along the way, for someone to open the door for them to walk through and to experience directly for themselves this transformational process. In my work over these last decades, whether it's with teaching people meditation or self-development or inner development, with animal communication, nature communication, what I have found consistently is that there are gaps in people's understanding of how this process works, which can be quite a technical thing. And there are specific exercises which can be drawn from the traditions that I've worked in for these decades to directly assist individuals in this process. And so, for example, when a person, because I teach animal communication, when a person is seeking to learn this skill and this art, if there are gaps in the knowledge of their emotional, mental bodies, their psychic bodies, and their spiritual bodies, if there are gaps in that foundation, then there can be struggles with developing the art and skill of animal communication. And so it seems to me at this stage in our evolution, it is right and proper to bring the wisdom and the teachings of some of these mystery schools back into a format which is usable for us today, because we are not the same people, but the wisdom and the traditions which these peoples had, because they're eternal, because they're perennial, they are as true and as powerful today as they were then, which is why they are called perennial wisdom traditions. And so this is part of what I would like to bring early next year to those who are at the stage in their life where they have been seeking but they have not found, where they are opening up their psychic senses but don't know how to navigate their psychic life. And this is where the teaching, the metaphysical teaching of discernment is absolutely critical here. And this is often lost, but it's one of the key foundational teachings which needs to be taught so that we can clearly, with psychic and spiritual hygiene, navigate the psychic realm in order to do what we feel called to do in a way that is clear, perceptive, grounded, and that is in service of the whole Earth community. And I have found over the years that again and again, when I've gone back to the mysteries of ancient Egypt, for example, the Judgment Hall, the symbols, the mysteries and the myths contained within the ancient Egyptian texts, whether it's within the Greek myths and the archetypes or the Pythagorean golden verses, the power of these texts, these symbols, these myths are so transformational that if there is someone to open the door to allow that person, an individual, to go in and to experience those teachings, then that person can work with them in a way which is utterly empowering. Because the spiritual and the sacred path is one of soul empowerment. And let's be clear, the most powerful part of who we are is our soul light, and the spark of the divine, which is held within the very center of our soul light. So that's why all paths, all sacred paths, will always lead within. And so the journey is an external journey, it's always within. And what I have found over the years is that often that's the very last place we want to go, or we end up going within, but we get lost and we don't know how to navigate the labyrinth that we find within our own psychic space, our own emotional space, and our own mental space. And that is what these teachings can help us find, the golden thread which takes us out of the labyrinth. Mm-hmm. So at that point, Janine, have you got any questions which...
No, but can we start next week?
I know.
No, that was very well explained. And yeah, it's really exciting to think that there's, you know, something like this going to be available. Because my experience is, you know, having the formula, you know, the guidance and the formula, and that helps me have discipline to do the work, because otherwise I just get lost in thought and lost in seeking and searching on the internet and finding this course and that course, and I end up going around in circles, exactly like you said. So this is such a, you know, doing it in a more formal format like this for me is just invaluable. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Wonderful. And I think you raised such a good point there, because it's so easy to feel the call, the yearning from within of transformation. But how does one accomplish that? Well, and this is when people go into the seeker phase, which is vital. But it can also lead us into looking here, there. And before we know it, we've spent so much time trying to find without finding, because the soul is not satisfied. The soul knows it's not powerful enough, it's not deep enough, it's not transformative enough. And when we find something which has practical applications and exercises, because so much, and again, what I've tended to find is there is a danger that so much spirituality of recent times, not all of it, but quite a lot of it, becomes a mentalized spirituality. And transformation does not actually occur within the mind. It's a complete transformation of all the parts of us, all the parts of our humanness, the ancients would call this the egoic mind, or the false self, or the lesser self, or the discursive mind. It's the parts of ourselves which the ancient Greeks would say, which entombs the light of the soul. So the light of the soul is always blazing like an internal sun. But our human fragility and our shadow, our subconscious patterns, our emotional woundings, our archetypes which have gone into the shadow, our shadow contents themselves, all of that can dim the light of that luminous, glorious sun which is ever shining within us. And so the ancient Greeks perceived this as, that the body becomes a tomb. This wasn't to say that to deny the sanctity of the body, not at all. It was saying that the density within which the human can reside can obliterate their conscious awareness of the luminosity of the sun that they really are. And so this work isn't so much a path of traveling somewhere, but it's releasing, it's cleaning. And the ancients would call this catharsis, which is purification. And then they would say it's praxis, which is practice. And why did they do this? So that the illumination of the sun can shine forth from within us unhindered by the lesser parts of our woundedness, our subconscious programs, and all the other stuff that we know about, that those parts of ourselves which limit us and hinder us. And that is the part that we need to work with, to transform, to alchemize, so that we don't get rid of the ego, because we need an ego to be here on this planet. And we're here on this planet for a reason, a purpose, which is aligned to the depth of who we are in this incarnation. So the metaphysics that I'm talking about isn't about ascending away from embodiment, but is actually illuminating all of our physicality from within with the glorious splendor of the inner sun. And so I suppose this group is ripe and ready for those of us who want to go a bit deeper, who have reached that stage where whatever we've done in the past might have partially helped, but not completely helped on this process of transformation. Not away from who we are, but into actually who we are. So this isn't going away. It's not going without. It's not going above. It's not even going down, although there comes a stage when, in order to ascend, we need to descend. And that's held within so many mystery school traditions of the Eleusinian mysteries, for example, personify that. But it is a group for those people who are ready to engage in the inner work, the nitty-gritty of the inner work, supported by the group of, and I hope this will actually grow to be a sacred community, actually, where we are supporting one another in this work. And although it's our own personal journey, the framework which is given through the teaching is of such lineage and carries such wisdom and such sacred resonance that it will add an impetus and help as an assisting aid for that transformatory journey. So there will be work required. So this is for those who've reached a stage when they are ready to engage in that inner work. How much inner work they do is entirely up to them, but all I can say is, like with most things, the more you put into something, the more you'll get out of it. And sometimes the results, because we live in a culture where we expect immediate results, because everything is, instant download and instant this, instant that. It doesn't always happen like that. It can do. But the power of the exercises which I can share and the teachings which I hope to relay to people are such that they will be taken within our subconscious, and along with the practical exercises carried out, they will act as the springboard for that individual's transformation. And so how I envisage the group to work practically is we'll meet, it'll be a live meeting once a month, and I'm thinking the second Tuesday in every month, and it will be carried out over Zoom, and it will run up to 90 minutes, maybe slightly less, depending on how much feedback and sharing that the participants will want to engage with. Because along with me teaching on a particular subject, there will be time for perhaps a meditation or an exercise related to that subject. There will be time for discussion about that exercise, limited, of course, within the time frame we have, but also on an ongoing basis. There will be feedback. There will be time at the end of each of our meetings for those called to do so, to give feedback about how they've experienced the exercise given at the previous meeting. So this is about coming together as a group to share these teaching and to share our experiences of how this process of transformation is working within us, for us, and what happens, what challenges arrive, because it's not all a trajectory which helps us to go up. I mean, as you know, with all of this work, sometimes it means that stuff has to come up to the surface. And that in itself is a cathartic purification process. And that's part of what it takes to transform. So these meetings will happen once a month on a Tuesday. I'm keeping the cost for this at a minimum. So I'm asking a fee of £10 per meeting. And what I intend to do is to take a twice yearly subscription for this. So there'd be payment before the first meeting, and then before 6 months later, there'd be a payment for the next 6 months. And so it gives time for perhaps a subject to be explored in entirety within one meeting, or on occasion for a subject which is deep and rich to be explored in different facets over several meetings. For example, the Egyptian judgment hall. I mean, I know you know about the judgment hall, and for those who don't, it's one of the key symbolic representations held within the Egyptian coming forth by day, and seen in many of the ancient tombs. And within this one picture, if you like, are contained so many symbols and teachings of inner transformation that each aspect, each symbol, each representation is a doorway into a whole world of transformation. So each of these parts of this one scene can be taken and explored, which will absolutely benefit and assist the individual on their own path of transformation. And that's why I'm passionate about sharing these mysteries with people, because I know through direct experience of my own inner work how transformational these mysteries, these symbols, these texts actually are, brought into a modern day context and a description, but the power is still there.
Will you be providing notes for people, or will we need to take notes during the call?
People will take their own notes. I may be presenting slides and stuff. So, for example, if I'm describing the Egyptian judgment hall, for example, for those who haven't seen it, I will be putting that on the screen and talking about specific aspects of that. But it won't be recorded. So this is a live interactive session. But you take your own notes. You take the notes that are relevant for you, because everyone is at a different stage, and B, what stands out for one person will not stand out for another person. Now the key exercise that will be given, that will be emailed through. So anything which has a practical nature for each individual, each participant to explore when they are between sessions, that will be sent out, so that you don't have to worry about that. That will be given out.
Okay. So what time of the day are you thinking of doing this?
So this will be English time, UK time, it will be from 7 p.m. till 8:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And as I say, I'm allowing 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect that the whole 90 minutes will be filled because I want to
Yeah.
allow time for sharing and discussion. But on the odd occasion that people don't feel the need to share or don't want to share, because sharing isn't compulsory. So
Mm.
this is not saying that everyone has to share or participate, but I suspect as a growing sacred community that it would feel a safe space to
Mm.
share
Mm.
our experiences of this work and how it's impacted in our own inner process of transformation. So it will be 7 to 8:30, second Tuesday. I think I'm thinking the second Tuesday of the
Mm-hmm.
month.
And will you want everyone to be on video with you, or?
Ideally, yes. I mean, if individuals, because I think it would be nice that we are all feel safe enough and um, it feels appropriate to share who we are
Mm.
on video. So yes, I think that would be something that I would encourage. Um, so yes, I think that would be something that I think would be a good thing to have.
Yeah.
And one thing I would say about this group is it is an active group of, as I've said, self-transformation, of initiatic, esoteric, metaphysical, spiritual transformation. This is in contrast, because sometimes we get mixed up with this. It's not the same as self-help, and it's not the same as sort of psychological work or counseling work. So that's not what this group is, but it does nevertheless deal specifically with our emotional, mental, psychic bodies, as well as our spiritual body, our soul light, because that's all part of the transformational process. But this is not the same as self-help or counseling. This is transformation,
Mm.
which is a whole another level.
Mm.
So therefore, people need to feel that they are ready for this and that this is something they really want to engage in, because it's such an exciting thing to engage in.
Yeah.
It's incredibly empowering,
Mm.
powerful. And when one feels the presence of what it feels like to be connected deeply with their own soul light,
Mm.
it recalibrates how they experience their own life completely. It doesn't mean that the trials will end, or it doesn't mean say that we won't suffer, because life on this planet is one of joy and suffering.
Mm.
However, how we experience that, how we respond to that changes.
Mm.
Because now we are in alignment with the power and the grace and the sanctity of our soul.
Mm.
And with that comes peace. With that comes deep embodiment of a sense of grace, of equanimity, of being able to respond rather to react, of being able to be fully in the world, but not psychically attached by what is happening in the world. Because so often today, people feel psychically so overwhelmed by what is happening in the world.
Mm.
Whereas this path and the paths shared by these traditions help us to navigate those waters.
Mm. Yeah, and I just want to say that for anyone who's watching this, who doesn't know Clare or doesn't know Clare very well, I just want to say that, I mean, I've known Clare nearly 2 decades now, and she's an incredible, wise, capable teacher of these subjects, and she has inspired me for many years, and her ability to see what needs to be done and said, and it is she's one of a kind. So if you're on the fence thinking about it, then I highly recommend Clare as a teacher. Yeah, just wanted to
Well,
add that
that
in.
is quite an accolade. I hope I can live up to that.
You
But no,
always live up to it.
well, that's very kind words to say. But it is something I feel passionate about.
Mm.
And the work that I do now, I see people struggling.
Mm.
I see people struggling. And I see people caught up in the projections and fantasies and delusions of the mind, and lacking the beauty and the depth and the empowerment that being aligned with their soul light can offer. And as we do this for ourselves, then it makes every act of service that we do in the world so much more illuminated, so much more graced by power, so much more transformative. And I think what the world needs now, doesn't it, is this sort of activism, as Andrew Harvey would call it, sacred activism. It's this transformative action which carries the power and the potency of who we really are. So
yeah,
and that is it. So folks, if you are interested in this group, please get in touch with me. All the details will be at the end of this video, and if you've got any questions, get in touch and let me know, because I will be putting out details on my website, on the Facebook page, but also if you message me or email me direct, then I can make sure that you are kept up to speed with all the practical things that you need to know about.